Hello and welcome back to the channel. Now today we want to talk about something that's close to my heart, which is books that start and finish within the same cover and then get out of there. I mean, trilogy's fine, but I mean a standalone. I love a standalone.
I also love a standalone.
Yeah?
You'll have to excuse my general... I am coming down with a cold.
But the content drive never stops.
No, I am a drama queen. Oh, okay,
As is our cat.
As is our cat. I've taken a motherload of Sudafed and Lemsip Max Cold and Flu stuff. And I'm here making the content.
Yes, Laura's working through the pain.
So I'm here... but this may be a Ross heavy video.
Well, okay, as I say, today we want to talk about standalone books, and particularly standalone sci-fi and fantasy books, because it's kind of a specific thing to the genre. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but normal literature, you know, the thing that normies read. Weirdos. Rarely do you ever find sequels. You know, they're often standalone books, whereas fantasy and sci-fi, I think you find kind of more sequels than anything else.
I have to say, when I was preparing for this, and I was going through my hardcover, trying to find standalones that I could talk about, it was really hard. I did find that magical realism, there was quite a lot of standalone magical realisms.
Just preempting what our lists are going to be like.
Yeah.
You've kind of gone into more like maybe classics, more like kind of spec fic that you might find among
mine's a lot of spec fic.
Yeah. Whereas I've gone for quite obscure picks that I'm hoping will be new to some of you, so you can come away and go like, you know what, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But before we start on our lists, we got 5 each to make a list of 10. Before I start, I want to talk about The Dance of Shadows very briefly. I put a video up about this. This is a book by Rogba Payne, came out in the UK just like last month, and I think it's a brilliant book, and it is a standalone currently, so I kind of didn't really know what to put it in the list because I didn't know whether there'd be a sequel to it. But if you're interested in this book, go click that thing up there, because just have a look. It's a brilliant book.
Also, Rogba's a really nice guy.
Legend. Okay, so let's get on with the actual lists. And Fang is going to be meowing the whole way through. We fed him. Don't believe him. Do you want to get your first one out of the way?
Let's alternate.
Yeah. Okay.
So my first one, and I actually just finished rereading this. I did a reread. I've read this, I think, 3 times now. Is The Day of the Triffids by John Wyndham, which is a classic. This was written in... I want to say 1951.
Keep talking.
It is a dystopia.
1951.
It's a dystopia in which a man wakes up in hospital following an injury to his eye, which means that his eyes were bandaged. And he has inadvertently, by a stroke of luck, missed the end of the world.
Sounds like 28 Days Later.
It's 28 Days Later is based on this.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it is a really cool book.
But it's not zombies, though, is it?
Yeah.
It is zombies.
So it's not really zombies as such, it's people that have just been struck blind. So the affliction that has happened is that there was this... They're saying that it's a meteorite, but is it a meteorite? It's a question mark through the book. Was it a meteorite or was it a weapon of some kind? Everybody that looked at it, it gave off this green light... and everyone that saw it went completely blind. Imagine a world in which 99% of the population, except for the people who were in hospital with their eyes bandaged, and like small children that have gone to bed and weren't woken up, and like people that were asleep in cellars or were like paralytic drunk and passed out somewhere, have woken up blind. Imagine what will happen to society.
What about the plants? I thought there were plants in it, right?
There are also plants in it, and the plants are related. I'm not going to give it away.
Okay, all right. No more questions about the plants. That setup is amazing.
It's a really, really, really good book.
Doesn't have a proto-feminist rant, I believe you said as well.
So there's also one really cool character in it who, I don't want to give too much away, but I did briefly consider using this character's name as my pen name if I ever publish my book.
Love that. So from a sci-fi from the 50s to a sci-fi from 2015, I want to recommend this book that I think, I haven't really seen recommended much anywhere, apart from the person who did recommend it to me, which is my good friend Mike McCarg. If you know, you know. This is Saturn Run by John Sandford and Ctein. I think it's a Stein, but it's with a C, but Ctein. Let's go with Ctein. This is really for fans of Andy Weir. So this is for fans of Andy Weir. It is, and it sort of has a similar setup to Interstellar, in that if you remember in the film Interstellar, there's something that appears near Saturn, and it's a race against time to go there and look at it. Similarly, again, this is Saturn Run, so something appears near Saturn, and it's a race against time for people to go look at it. But in this case, it is not only a race against time, it's also a race between countries. So you have the US versus China on a technological mission, and it happens basically only in the very near future. So the technology they have in order to do this mission is only slightly further on than what we have currently. Very scientifically based. Just, I think that's really the core of the book. It's really well told. Like all the science feels very believable and kind of paints a picture of what space travel could look like. Similarly, I guess, to The Expanse, which we're currently reading, like Leviathan Waits. It kind of has that grounded reality. And it's another first contact story. That's not a spoiler because it's kind of set out quite instantly from the start. It's going to be a first contact story. So, highly recommend Saturn Run by John Sandford and Ctein. And it's a standalone book. Laura, what's your next book on your list?
Well, this one did not come recommended by Science Mike, sadly.
No.
It's Song of Achilles by Madeleine Miller. And this is a book that divides opinion.
Does it?
Yeah, some people really don't like this book.
Ah.
I really like this book. And this is a book that made me cry a lot the first time I read it.
Oh.
I am a massive Patroclus stan. I love him.
So Patroclus being Achilles' lover, yeah?
Yes.
This is based around Troy?
Yes, it is about the assault on Troy by the
Greeks?
Agamemnon.
Agamemnon.
I'm sick.
We will get through this.
It was one that I finished reading this and I texted my friend Carla and was like, Carla, this book has destroyed me and you absolutely have to read it.
I've been wrecked against the rocks of this book.
Yeah. This has ruined me and you need to join me.
I mean, it is the seminal work of mythic retelling, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's
like
the one
original.
that really started this whole trend for mythic retellings. There's a whole slate of them now. There was also Circe by the same author. This is Circe. This is also an incredible book by Madeleine Miller, another standalone that I highly recommend.
So I'm going to go to the next one on my list, and this is A Song for Arbonne by Gavriel. Gavriel, very known for writing these books that kind of read almost like historical fiction, except for it's for a history that didn't happen in a world that is like ours but different. And there is a very slight kind of magical element in it. To give you a kind of context, it is full of this amazing lyrical prose. So music plays a really key role in this book, sort of similar in some sense to The Name of the Wind. But the key kind of conflict in it is between these two nations. There's the peaceful nation of Arbonne, and then there's the warring nation just next door of Gorehor. It's gore in the name, so you know it's got to be bad. It is a wonderfully told story. Gavriel helped on the Silmarillion, so that's how you know how good he is. He is the master of writing these standalone books. I read this last year, highly enjoyed it.
Fang.
Highly recommend it. And Fang has once again stepped in front of the camera. Come here.
Every video.
Okay, Laura, what's next on your chaotic list?
I'm so ill. It's one that I've spoken about on this channel before, which will be no surprise to people that know me in real life. And that is Fahrenheit 451 by the master, Ray Bradbury. And this is a lovely folio edition. Ooh. That I've shown off before. It's got these beautiful illustrations.
Oh, amazing.
Get a load.
Oh.
It's quite hard work, this book. It's quite... anyone who's ever read any Ray Bradbury will know that...
His prose is kind of...
His prose is quite, chewy.
He doesn't necessarily say what he means. He says what he feels.
Yeah, but I don't think that in any way negates this book. I think it's absolutely incredible.
Just a brief Pressy. Give us a little kind of flavour of what's inside this book.
Okay, so we are following the main POV character, Guy Montag, who is a fireman, but not in the way that you might expect.
He doesn't slide down poles.
He doesn't, well, maybe he does in his spare time, who knows? He burns books.
That's the opposite. That's like playing Fireman Sam in reverse.
Yeah. This is a society in which books are banned and people that read are vilified.
This is some 1984 bull crap.
It's an amazing book. And if I could make everybody in the world read it, I would.
That sounds as authoritarian, Laura. But authoritarian in a good way. You know, you're making people read. I'm
like the opposite. I'm the anti-Fahrenheit 451. But it like critiques like censorship, suppression of dissent. It's incredible. It's amazing. And so before its time, I can't remember what year this was published, but a long time ago. 53.
53.
I like a good 50s sci-fi.
You know, I was considering putting a Ray Bradbury book on my list. I was considering putting Something Wicked This Way Comes on my list.
Which is also incredible.
Until I realised, Laura,
what?
that Something Wicked This Way Comes is not a standalone book. That there are characters in Something Wicked This Way Comes that feature in other of Ray Bradbury's books. I know. So I couldn't put it on there. But luckily, I do have a very, very good...
Is he for real?
This is ridiculous. No, just ignore this. Luckily, I do have a book that could replace Something Wicked This Way Comes in that sort of vibe.
In that oeuvre.
In that oeuvre. And that is Boy's Life by Robert McCammon. This book is one of those books that I feel like is insider knowledge, you know? Robert McCammon as well, I think, is kind of insider knowledge. He's
an author for authors.
He's an author for authors. Like Guy Gavriel Kay, also an author for authors. Robert McCammon is incredibly kind of undersung, I think, in BookTube. And Boy's Life is a wonderful, again, self-contained story that has these real kind of magical, fantastical elements. But it's all happening within the town of Zephyr, Alabama. And we follow our protagonist, Corey Mackinson, as he is witness to a car being driven into a lake with a dead body inside. And then the plot kind of unfurls from this mystery as Corey understands there are some strange things going on in his town. Very, very strange.
It kind of reminds me of Stranger Things.
Totally like Stranger Things. Totally like it. It's very much a coming of age story. It is a delight. It is a true delight. One of my books of last year. Fantastic book. If you enjoyed Something Wicked This Way Comes, or if you enjoyed watching Stranger Things, then you're going to love this book. We have set the cat down.
On the floor?
On the floor. On the floor. We put him down on the floor.
I'm cracking on because I'm getting progressively worse as the recording continues. My next book is one that I talked about many times.
Is it also a book about a virus that gets progressively worse very quickly?
Oh, God. It's Station 11.
Station 11!
By... Emily St. John Mandel, which is one of my all-time favourite books.
What a book.
I've read this multiple times. Once during the pandemic, which was a mistake. This is a book about a pandemic in which, like, 90% of the world dies. But it's incredible. You love this book as well.
I do love this book.
It is a standalone. It's a self-contained story. I could effuse about how incredible this book is for hours.
I believe we have in previous videos as well.
It follows a troupe of actors and musicians who are traversing this landscape.
One of the things I really like about this book is that it's one of the few kind of optimistic pandemic books I come across, or pandemic stories even. Like it focuses on, you know, finding the beauty in this horrible situation. You know, everyone doing their best to find things that give them purpose.
Agree.
And so that's one of the reasons why it's just such a lovely book.
It's beautiful. It's beautifully written.
Yeah.
It's the kind of book that you will read and just think, gosh, what a beautiful, beautiful book. So
this one here is by an author who is a kind of popular in the fantasy space right now, which is Chris Wooding, who wrote the Shadow Caskets and The Ember Blade. This one here, not so many people have heard of. It is The Haunting of Alaizabel Cray. And I've been wanting to talk about this book for quite a long time on this channel because I love this little book. It is a steampunk, eldritch, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Lovecraftian adventure in an alternative London.
Ooh!
You're hitting all my key words.
With airships, with demon possession. It is pitched at the young adult market.
Oh.
It was published by Scholastic. But I think it's quite, for a young adult book, I actually think it's fairly got broad appeal. I think it's incredibly well written. It's a really good adventure, and it all takes place inside this cover and that cover, and then it's done. Doesn't overstay its welcome. Wonderful book, and Chris Wooding has gone on to do some incredible things. So if you want to go back and see some of the things he was doing earlier on in his career, then do check out The Haunting of Alaizabel Cray.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was, ticking all the boxes, wasn't it?
Until the young adult thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think so. I mean, there are lots of books that you could say you could pitch as young adult that are still really good. Like The Hobbit, you could say is young adult in a way, but we love it. Terry Pratchett, you could describe maybe as a bit young adult, maybe. Like, it's about broad appeal. And yes, this was published by Scholastic, but I do think that it stands alone as a modern adult fantasy book as well. Haunting of Alaizabel Cray.
Well, there we go.
Yeah. Laura, you have one more book on your list.
But no more books in my pile.
No more books in your pile. Why is that?
This is a book that I've actually only just started, but
That's cheating.
but it's so amazing, and just so widely acclaimed. And my very good friend Jamrock, whose real name is not Jamrock, gave it a 5-star review on Goodreads.
My very good friend Gabby is also reading this book at the moment.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what does she think?
She's enjoying it.
Yeah. This is Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. It is just so beautifully written. It's so beautifully written, in fact, that I'm reading it thinking, I should never write again. Because I will never be able to write this well.
It's a common Murakami experience.
Yeah. And I know you're not supposed to compare your first draft to somebody's finished book, but I don't think that my finished book will be half as good as this finished book, or even a tenth as good. It's just so beautifully written.
I hear it has a lost cat.
It does. It does have a lost cat. It basically follows two main protagonists, Kafka and Nakata. And Nakata can speak to cats.
Okay.
Which we love! Magical realism at its finest. And it's about like how these two lives are intertwined and how there's like a metaphysical connection between people and events, and it's just such a beautiful book. I haven't finished it yet. Maybe it all goes Pete Tong.
But it's highly regarded.
It's very highly regarded.
By people we trust, including Jamrock.
Anything that Jamrock says is good. He's never given me a dud recommendation.
And so it's a standalone book.
It's a standalone.
Nothing else in the series.
No.
So you can read that and you can get the whole story for the price of one book.
Yeah. Have you got any more to talk about?
I have one more book.
Okay.
I could need to give you the cat.
Okay. Give me.
Ever since I read this book, I've never been able to stop talking about it.
Oh, I know what it is.
It's by one of my favourite authors. I lent it to my mum. She said it was the best book she'd ever read. I am, of course, talking about Piranesi by Susanna Clarke, which has just been announced that it's going to be turned into a film by Leica, who are like one of my favourite film companies. It was that when that news came out, I basically a blood vessel burst in my brain from excitement.
Screaming, crying, pooping everywhere.
Yeah. The floor was a mess. Let me tell you a bit about Piranesi. But I don't want to tell you too much about Piranesi, because the joy of Piranesi is discovering what the hell is going on at the same time as the protagonist, who is suffering from some form of memory issue. And he is in this kind of world between worlds, this kind of odd figurative world with many rooms and lots of statues. He is making some diaries as he goes along, trying to kind of understand what he's doing there, just making notes, of what he observes. Piranesi, the character named Piranesi, is an incredibly likable narrator. Just the most wonderful, enjoyable mind to be inside. The way that he sees the world is gorgeous. And of course, the world around him, being this figurative place, is gorgeous. But as the plot unfurls and as he meets this mysterious stranger called the Other, he starts to realise that perhaps things are not all as they seem in this world, that perhaps there's something else going on here, and his quest to understand himself and some of the strange things that are going on around him, it'll take him many places inside the place that is the house. It is gorgeous. It is wonderful. It is a short read. It is all contained within these 2 covers. And once you've read that, because this is now an assignment, you can go read Jonathan Strange as well, which is like one of my favourite books of all
I
time.
didn't sign up to be given homework.
You are being given homework. You signed up for the course. All right. I think you kind of get the picture. I love that book. And you will love it too. I can basically promise it. So there you go. 10 great standalone books in the sci-fi / fantasy / spec fic genre for people to go and check out. If you had to pick any of those books to recommend as your key recommendation, which one would it be?
Station 11.
Yeah. And for me, it'd be, obviously, Piranesi. Add them to your TBRs, your To Boldly Reads. Mm-hmm. And while you're doing that, scroll down, see the little like button there. Doesn't cost you any time to click that. And then next to it, somewhere along there, is a subscribe button. So do those. Why don't you go over to @HardysBooks on Instagram and give us a follow, and then hop over to hardysbooks.co.uk where you can find our many sci-fi / fantasy modern first edition / signed books that you can purchase. Mm-hmm. And get down in the comments, tell us what your favourite standalone sci-fi / fantasy / spec fic book is, and so we know you made it to the end of the video, make sure you include in your comment, "Get well soon, Laura," because we all feel it. Get well soon, Laura.
Thank you.
See you in the next one, everyone. Bye.